What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what? Terrence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man. Good old humor is the end of the week version. Hope you guys listened to the podcast we had with Joe Tan,
Yeah,
a multi-talented performer.
yeah. I think it was quite enjoyable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, given her radio DJ experience, she knows how to really light it up for the microphone, right?
But I can't imagine being a radio DJ, you know.
Mm.
Like, can you if I told you, Terrence, for the next month, right, you're gonna be a radio DJ. I mean, not shitting on radio DJs or anything, just the nature of the job. Do you think you can be a radio DJ or not? That means you cannot shit on your co-host, you cannot squash their dreams, you cannot be the pessimist to their optimist.
I mean, it's a job, lah. It's a job, lah. Right. You can't. I don't think you can go in there expecting it to be like, you're presenting your true self to the world and you say everything you want unfiltered. It's like when you're hosting a wedding or something, you're not going to like break out stories of how your friend, cheated on his girlfriend or anything like that, right? Things like that. Yeah. So it's like a job, it's a normal job.
But then for a wedding host, ultimately you are still a host, whereas radio DJ, you're selling your personality.
Are you really? I mean,
ideally lah. Ideally, people listen to you for your personality. I guess the ideal job fit for someone who's a radio DJ is someone who, even in real life, sounds like a radio DJ.
Yeah, he loves to talk in those jingles and like those, like has something pithy and interesting to always mic drop at the end of a sentence, right?
Yeah, and always ready to laugh at other people's jokes, no matter how funny or unfunny they are.
Yeah. And
man.
won't break the code, basically. Yeah, you're supposed to play a game and you're not supposed to question how it's done and all that.
And you think I can say omelette on the radio? Confirm cannot?
Can.
Cannot.
You just say that you just explain that it's some
colloquialism.
Random, yeah.
Colloquialism.
Colloquialism. And then, okay. Because, that doesn't sound like what a typical Singaporean would say. And then, so it must be sophisticated, right?
Yeah, and that's what makes us Singaporean. We're a mishmash, a rojak of all personalities.
But yeah.
And then go to a commercial break. Cool, man. But thankfully, we don't have to do that here.
We speak our mind, and we talk about any topic as long as it's somewhat interesting. Whether it like impacts people's lives, that's another question, but I think we try to find interesting topics, right?
Yeah, that's debatable, given the topics for today, which we will get into. But anything to say before we jump into the first topic?
I think as always we asked. I think a lot of people enjoyed the Joe Tan podcast. Hopefully, if you discover Yala, but if you're new to this, please tell another friend about it if you enjoyed it. I know for a fact that there's at least one like completely new listener this week who told me that he's very happy he found us and now he's got something to listen to while driving.
Cool. All right, cool. Okay,
Yes.
so shall we jump into the first topic?
Yeah, please.
Okay, maybe we give the context of how we decided the topics for today first. Because just building off what you just said about how we will always find stuff to talk about, regardless of how much they might impact people's lives, right?
Yeah.
Today we spent quite a bit of time deciding what to talk about because it felt like there was nothing earth-shattering today, which I was surprised. I haven't felt this for a long time.
Yeah, maybe it's leading up to the Hari Raya weekend and everything, like everyone's just pushing through to the weekend.
Really? But we figured, okay, let's just find two topics to talk about, and see where this goes, So the first topic is an article that appeared on Yahoo via Insider. I guess the original article was published on Insider, and it's about like someone who has been in the news quite a bit these past few
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
It is Zoe Gabriel, the 17-year-old influencer, I guess, who first went to caught fame when she posted about her luxury Charles and Keith bag.
Yeah.
So, on one hand, I did feel like, oh my god, we're talking about this again. And nothing to against her. It's just like, how much are we going to talk about this? But here we are again.
Yes.
Because apparently, there have been a few more articles that have been profiling her, including posts by Charles and Keith. Because since the whole incident, she has become involved in their campaigns as well as campaigns for AirAsia. But I guess she has reached a level of fame where people are just looking for reasons to hate on her. And there were people commenting on those posts. On 11th April, someone even compiled screenshots on Facebook of Zoe's dad's LinkedIn profile and goes on to explain why she feels that Zoe was being disingenuous when she said her family's poor. With the reasons being, if they came from the Philippines, her dad's an engineer, he's probably earning more than most Singaporeans anyway, so the homeschooling must be expensive, so don't be hoodwinked by her.
That's right.
So, Terence,
Yes.
what made you want to talk about this?
I guess it's an interesting topic given, the economic situation that Singapore is facing now, right? All the talk about two Singapores and the inequality between rich and poor. Literally this past week, like COEs, the price of COEs, for like the most normal kind of cars. I think the smallest car you can get went past 100,000. The highest ever. So it tells you that it's a real thing, right? There's a lot of and every other day we're reading about family officers from China or Indonesia coming into Singapore. They're buying up good class bungalows here. So a lot of rich families and people are moving en masse to Singapore. They're immigrating to Singapore, right? But then on the ground, we're facing higher cost of living. People are feeling like that GST rising, blah blah, everything lah. So there's a lot of animosity building up, tension building up in society about the gap between the rich and poor, right? So I think some people are taking what Zoe Gabriel, the fame that she's enjoyed since she came forward about the whole being made fun of, having bought a Charles and Keith bag and thinking there was a luxury bag. People have accused her of using that divide between rich and poor to sort of gain sympathy, right? And as of now become famous and get endorsements, whether it's with AirAsia or Charles and Keith or appear on talk shows and stuff like that. And people are saying no, she's actually from a pretty well-to-do background, so she is just sort of hamming it up when it comes to talking about her financial background and how she didn't have a lot. So people are just calling her out for what her family background is. I think interesting the climate of the inequality that we're talking about these days in the news. But how about you? What got you so excited about talking about this influencer?
Just the chance to talk about news and create this podcast. The topic itself, I won't deny that I was thinking, oh my god, is there nothing else that we can talk about? But I think when you phrase it that way, in the sense that it's not this issue itself that is the focal point of this whole theme. It is the broader what this kind of shows because, for example, right, when there one post on Facebook where a Facebook individual, I won't reveal her name, but she took like 5-6 screenshots of other commenters who were kind of writing very lengthy comments calling Zoe's family out for apparently like having some strange history that makes it seem like they're not poor, and posting it on Facebook. At first I was thinking, like, first of all, why the fuck is Insider writing about a post like this? How many comments or shares can it get? It got 2,000 shares, 778 comments, which means it's been shown. any post that gets 2,000 shares, it's been shown to at least 100,000 people on Facebook lah.
Yeah.
Then I was thinking, oh shit. Of course, when you click on the shares, a lot of them are saying, "Well, this kind of Singaporeans are crazy lah," because the post reeks of like xenophobia and just shitting on people who are perceived to be rich lah. But
Yeah.
I think like what you said, I also was shocked with the COE prices. Today there was another 4-room flat that just broke the $1.4 million threshold.
Jeez.
And it it just feels like there's that feeling that's brewing lah, in people. And I mean I won't deny it when I see certain things like, oh, like the prices going up. And I mean, like recently there was one development that opened up near my house, and the prices are expensive, man. But the first weekend, like 60% of it sold out. And I think a few podcasts ago, I also was saying that it does feel like that whole two Singapore's thing is, I don't know, it's coming more and more to the forefront. Yeah. And I mean, I think everyone probably feels this to a certain extent, because even if you're doing well, chances are there's someone who's like fucking miles ahead in terms of, I don't know, whatever success is deemed by society. And yeah, it's just weird, man.
But I think it's valid. It's a valid criticism that if she didn't come from a very, very poor financial background, let's say she was more middle class and everything, right? Do you think it's a valid criticism that the fame that she's received so far is unwarranted and honestly, and probably so-called dishonest in how she got it?
I don't think so lah. Like just based on that, I think for a number of reasons, right? Like first of all, you can't control when you go viral. I don't think even she in her wildest dream expected herself to go that viral. And second of all, I saw some people also saying, that if they go for family trips, there's 6 kids, 2 parents, but then in your post you say you couldn't afford bread. I think maybe previously, like years ago, I used to think, if you are like you want to take care of your food first, if you're not well to do, why would you get an iPhone? If you can get an iPhone, means you're not poor. But then as you get older, you realize people value different things differently. And I think it took me a while to realize that. So just looking at his post, it feels very like, just because you're a mechanical engineer in Singapore doesn't necessarily mean you're rich. You have 6 children.
Yeah. So what made that change, that shift in your thinking about like people who don't prioritize their spending and things like that?
Oh, but I mean, people who don't prioritize their spending or just spend out of limits, that's a whole different thing.
That's a different thing. But when let's say in this instance where they go for a family trip, but then vis-a-vis the fact that they can only eat bread for certain meals and stuff like that. I mean, you said that your opinion about this kind of thing changed. But what triggered that change?
I mean, I remember, I think at one point it was a discussion with you, I think years ago, and along the lines of, I used to always think like, why the fuck would people pay $500 to eat a meal? I mean, to a certain extent, I still feel that. Like, fine dining to me is like, but I think it was specifically around the Jiro dreams of sushi, that kind. That thing, like that. Like, I think it cost like $500 US to pay for a meal with him.
Yeah, you're talking about the documentary Jiro Dreams of Sushi, right?
Yeah.
Which talked about a very famous sushi chef that I think even Barack Obama went to his store in Japan to try it out, right?
Yeah, and for me, the last time I would be like, I'm never paying $500 US for sushi lah. I mean, how amazing can it be? 4 hours later, it ends up in your toilet bowl, right?
Yeah.
But I think it was a few conversations, and I know 1 or 2 conversations with you where your take was that ultimately you're paying this for the services of someone who's like the best in the world at what he does lah. And then when I thought, like, would I pay $500 US to watch like someone I really love in concert? I think I would,
Yeah.
And that was just that's on a higher level of like, okay, how people, doesn't mean you, of course, when I find people pay $30,000 for a handbag, I'm like, just fuck off lah. Okay, that one is a different thing. But I think since then, like people prioritize things differently, and maybe as you just grow older, you see the way people live their lives and stuff. But that's for me lah.
Mm.
Like for you, like do you think it is warranted or do you think it has any justification at all?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think quite similar to you. I also feel like, why are people digging so much into her background and what she says, lah, right? Because, I think that's the thing, right? We should try and take what people tell you at face value first, lah, right? Unless they do something that is really harming people, or she's going around asking for donations from the public or something like that, lah, right?
Mm,
Then I think maybe you really need to go through it with a fine comb, lah, right?
mm,
But if all she's doing is, putting her story out there, then like you said, it not even within her own control, it went viral, and all these brands, they can go and do their own fact checks and things like that. And after they've done it, they decided, oh, we still want to feature her and work with her. That I think that's okay because it doesn't really harm anybody whether or not she was, maybe even stretching or exaggerating the truth a bit, lah, right? At the end of the day, her message was a good message, lah, right?
mm,
And it's not like she showed a fake bank account or anything like that. She just said, she said her growing up things were very modest with her family, lah, right?
yeah.
And so I don't think people should be coming down on her so strongly. But actually that kind of brings me to a very interesting thing that's going on the side also, lah.
Mm,
Not sure if you heard recently, but there's an influencer, Melissa Seco, who
mm,
very unfortunately, I think her second son was diagnosed with quite a serious heart condition, from young, lah, right?
mm,
But and then very recently had to go into the NICU and spend I think a month or two there, and then unfortunately passed away like last week or something.
mm.
And another influencer, Daryl Aiden Yao, the guy who
The
was of the the
photo guy.
Photoshop, the Photoshop guy who got famous for photoshopping himself to different locations and
Yeah.
passing off as real. Um, he came forward and he started to do I think a GoFundMe to help Melissa Seco pay for the medical bills of her child now, who just passed. Um,
Mm.
and there's a lot of scrutiny there, and in similar ways, there's a lot of people, commenters, and all that who are saying, hey, Melissa Seco, she's known for traveling very luxuriously all across Europe. I think she was famous for a lot of her wedding. When she got married, a lot of her wedding was sponsored
Oh.
by brands and all these things.
Oh
So
yes, yes, yes.
she gets all these things as an influencer. She's not poor. She travels in style, travels with luxury. Why should we have to contribute to her GoFundMe? Why should we have to pay for her child's medical expenses when there's a lot more other deserving people out there, lah? So
Mm.
that one's a whole can of worms in itself, and I think there's still more to it coming up because I think Melissa Seco herself, she's grieving and all. She's not answered any questions about this, but I think the influencer Daryl Aiden Yao has gone ahead to start the GoFundMe and all that, and a lot of people are questioning the validity of it, lah. In that case, I mean, I as much as I empathize with what Melissa Seco is going through, lah, right? But because there's an act of asking the public for donations, so definitely there will be more scrutiny, lah, right? Even
Mm.
I think in whatever case, even myself, I'll be okay. I think they need to be really transparent and really communicative with how how the money is being used, and maybe even Melissa Seco herself has to address this at some point, like at some point. But because they're asking for money, so I can understand why there's public scrutiny, and in some ways, I think there should be more scrutiny because you're asking for donations, But in this case
Mm.
for Zoe Gabriel, she never asked for donations, and if anything, by talking more about her, you are giving her the clout, lah, right? For her to go and get more sponsorships and endorsements. So if you don't like what she's doing, don't give her the attention, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think she's done anything that warrants or needs her to really come forward and explain her financial background. Yeah.
Which she did, right? A few days ago. With her dad.
Yeah.
Because I think there were accusations to clear the air the air with her dad, which itself got a lot of views, but people are saying the same thing like what you said, like she shouldn't have to come and explain. But yeah, I think that is the difference, because even when you were telling me about the Melissa Seco issue, I mean, like I can't imagine what she's going through, and she deserves all the time she wants on her own. But with Daryl Eden Yao starting a crowdfunder, just hearing it, I was like, something feels a bit off, lah. And I think like what you said, lah. But then, okay, so this is where it gets a bit weird also, right? Because let's say there have been fundraising activities that are meant to fundraise for, the whole wealthy people raising money for charity. I know that also now has kind of like a sour taste, because you just Google wealthy people or raising money for charities, there'll always be a polarizing thing.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's the thing about raising something publicly. Without context, you can imagine how it's going to be portrayed, because she might be going through a really tough time. Right?
Well, you're talking about Melissa Seco, is it?
Yeah.
Yes.
About the thing, because my initial thing was that I wouldn't want to contribute to that crowdfunding effort just off the top of my head, lah. But then if she's really going through issues, does this mean that she or her family doesn't deserve it? That's where fuck. Yeah, it poses a whole bunch of questions. It poses a whole bunch. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing about taking or asking people for money, right? Regardless of the intentions, the moment you ask people for money, you have to be accountable for where it goes, right? And I like you, and maybe more so than a lot of people, I really can empathize with the loss of a child, right? So it's I feel bad, but the thing about asking for money is from donations and all is that that's what there's this. It becomes a really gray area already, right? After that, whether it's you're asking for how you're going to be using the donations and things like that, and to avoid, just for your own sake, to avoid any kind of doubt or any scandal or what, you should be more forthcoming, or you should take the initiative and really put it out there about how the money is being used, right?
But then,
so I mean, I'm not expecting like Zoe Gabriel style where you have to come out and lay and do a TikTok video and talk about your family finances and all that. But at least for the money that was donated and some kind of receipt or what, or who was transferred or paid to, Yeah.
But then, I was just thinking, just to play the role of the Yalabat. I mean, ultimately, if I know this is not just specific to Melissa Seco, but now that we're talking about stuff on a philosophical level, right? Sometimes I do think also that, like, it's easy to look at someone who's fucking well off and be like, wow, they have it easy, look at me, I'm grinding, but everything's kind of relative, right? If you go down the socio-economic tier, there might be people looking at you thinking, look at that person complaining, they don't know what I'm going through. So if you extrapolate that, maybe there's some billionaire and all who sees a case like this, not Melissa Seco, maybe someone else who is also perceived to be well-to-do, raising funds. If they want to give, technically, what's wrong with having a crowdfunding initiative that is not making everyone give? You still give your own choice, right? Right. So why is that an issue? Like Daryl Eden is not forcing everyone at gunpoint to be like, you fucking donate now. It's ultimately, you don't want to donate, don't donate.
Correct. It's true, but they are not. They've not specifically reached out to any billionaires to step forward. They've reached out to the general public now, right? Which is can be any mother's son out there. you know, and so that $10 that you get from a regular person could be worth a lot more to that person than $1 million to a billionaire, right? And so that's where I think the moment you open it up to the public, I think it's important to be accountable. I mean, plus the fact, I mean, Daryl Aiden Yao has had his own controversies, right? With when it comes to ethics, when it comes to ethical, the use of or at least his, I think in terms of his ethics when it comes to putting himself out publicly, right? Is definitely, I think that whole Photoshop thing was quite a big deal back in the day, right? And I kudos to him. He's sort of made a comeback and kind of turned it into his own advantage, right? But that's where I think, yeah, given his history and all that, it will be scrutinized, and it should be scrutinized a bit more carefully, lah.
So you're saying that that as much as we should never judge, we should never label people, we should give people a second chance. If you're putting something in the public eye and if you're a public figure, you should also understand how it's going to be perceived, and you should take the necessary steps to make it as perceivable, as easily perceived as possible.
Yeah. So in some cases, this is what Zoe Gabriel is doing now, right? By coming forward and being very honest, and even getting her dad on her videos to talk about it and all that, right? I think it's, in some ways it's putting a human face to all these discussions about people and reminding people that you're talking about a family, you're talking about a father, you're talking about another human being when you speculate about them and things like that as well, right? So in some sense, it's good on her, lah. She's definitely quite savvy.
Yeah, she's damn savvy, yeah.
Especially for given her age and everything also, lah. So in some sense that's it's a good thing.
Yeah, she is super savvy, man. I mean, like, if you want to hate on her, it's tough. That's why when you look at the post on Facebook, I'm like, walao, like, I think if you look at it in isolation, it's really like, shut the fuck up, lah. But then if you step back and think, what would drive someone to do this, lah? Then makes you think a bit more, lah.
Yeah.
Makes you think a bit more. And that's all we can do in life, right?
Yeah. Encourage
think
everyone.
A bit more. Yeah.
Think a bit more.
If you're listening to this on Friday, on the weekend, just stop and think a bit more.
Yeah, think a little bit more. But that's why, I mean, it's a good segue to talk about our next topic as well, right? Which is, I think the lesson is to think a bit more, or read and think a bit more before you sign off on certain contracts as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, this issue is, the title literally reads, Singapore company sues engineer who quit after getting bonus. Court orders him to give the bonus back.
That's right.
Because the terms, while not stated in his contract, was actually stated in the employee handbook.
Yeah.
Employee handbook. So I mean, just to be specific, what happened actually was he tendered his resignation on March 25th, 2022 and started to serve his contractual notice period of 2 months. But the company had already processed payment of his bonus on 23rd March. So basically 23rd March, the company processed the bonus. 25th March, he tendered. And 26th March, it was received in his bank account. And then the company said, no, you have to give it back. And they sued him in court. They sued him in court.
And they won. Yeah.
And they won. So their reason was that they made the payment because he tendered his resignation after the payment was being processed, and it was too late to reverse the transaction, because apparently employees are not eligible for bonus if they are serving their notice period when the incentive is paid. So basically, because he tendered on the 25th and the money reached him on the 26th, technically it was paid when he was tendering his serving his notice period.
No, to be specific, I think in the employee handbook it states that if the employee is serving the notice period on the date or the month that any of the incentives are declared or paid.
Oh yeah,
So
correct.
because they paid it in March, and then he tendered in March and started serving his notice period. So there's an overlap because of the month of March. So imagine if he waited till April, April 1st to tender.
We all sorted.
Then no issues there, no issues at all. But because he tendered like 5 days early, that's what happened. Yeah.
Oh my God. And I mean, so it really is not in the employment contract. But the company refuted this by saying there's another clause in his contract that says, and I quote, "You will enjoy such benefits and be subject to such further terms as laid down in the prevailing employee handbook or elsewhere, and the company expressly reserves subject to the all these legalese." Basically saying that no, there are other terms in the employee handbook. Don't forget that.
Yeah. But it's quite. How do you feel when you read about this case?
I mean, like when I see the thing in the contract saying you will enjoy such benefits and blah blah, has laid down in the prevailing employee handbook. I assume prevailing employee handbook means that, I don't know, the latest version of the employee handbook or some shit. Or maybe even, I mean, it has to be the handbook that was around when he signed the contract lah. But it just feels like, I mean, it's tricky, but ultimately it's still there lah.
Yeah, it is lah. And I think just reading the clauses and all, and the fact that the employee himself later said that HR did go through all these clauses, when he first got employed. So you can't say that he was blindsided by the clause lah, right?
Yeah. Because if he went through the employee handbook, it is kind of like they do detail it lah, right? Quite detailed, and I guess that's why the company decided to sue him.
Yeah.
But fuck, man, like I bet this is one of the like things you look back is like, oh fuck, 5 days. 5 days later, if it 6 days, and it would have gone in. But do you think it's fair? Like, ultimately contracts are always full of legalese and like stuff that can be twisted and shit. Do you think it's fair the way it was worded?
I think in Singapore, definitely our infrastructure is everything is much more pro business, right? And there's a lot less recourse, I think, for employees who have grievances, right, with their companies and all. But that's it. At the same time, like, I mean, this company, I guess I'm not sure if did they name the company, right? But they did. Quantum Technologies Global Private Limited. I think everyone who works there now is gonna be, shaking their boots or double checking their employee contracts and making sure that they don't come to a situation where they quit a job and then they get sued,
Yeah, that's right. I think everyone at every company should double check, man.
Double check and I think people recruiting for this company, next time when you Google the company's name, this article will come out a lot. It's one of the first things, right?
Yeah.
So it'll make you very cautious about what you sign the company,
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't sound nice, right? That like you just by quitting a company you get sued, and then after you have to pay the company back a bonus that was already paid out into your account.
Yeah,
right?
That's why.
It sounds crazy because it's like usually a bonus is for work that you've already done in the year prior.
Yeah.
But I guess because the company worded all these clauses such that there seems to be they can claw it back if you quit the same month that you got a bonus. It's just a tough situation for the engineer.
And I mean, I stand corrected about what I said earlier when I was questioning the meaning of the word prevailing. Actually, it is for the latest handbook, because one detail about this case is that these terms, these clauses, the service retention period, was indeed only introduced to the handbook on February 11, 2022. And in court, he argued that he never acknowledged or never agreed to it, but the company's defense was that it had emailed employees to notify them of the changes. And that the bonus was always discretionary in nature. So that that kind of like also doesn't paint the company in a good light lah. Because if you email changes 5 years after someone signed the original contract,
Yeah.
do they even have recourse to kind of push back and fight back and say, hey, you cannot just fucking change the term like that lah.
That's
Because
true.
I know
That's true.
credit card companies have done that to me before, and I fucking hate that shit.
Yeah.
Just slowly increase the minimum bank account required, bank balance required in your checking account, and then just fucking cut out all this late, like overdue fees. So
Yeah.
I hate that kind of shit lah.
Yeah. It's true. It's true that this kind of thing shouldn't just be an email, right? Because it's almost like a change in the terms of your contract in some ways, lah.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe you must, like when you got, even when Apple or any of those software updates, when you update, you need to agree to the terms and conditions. Right? If it's just an email, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, what's the difference? What more? I mean, email versus what? Getting them to sign on a piece of paper or something?
Yeah, because I mean, that's what you do when you sign a contract with a company, right? You're given the chance to review, and then you sign which
something.
means that okay lah, you agree to it, whether or not you have been diligent about it lah. But this one, if it was really just an email saying, "Hey, okay, we've changed this," that one feels a bit sneaky lah.
Yeah. Or if you didn't read your email for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
It's like the WhatsApp scene like that. Just because then people who then they message you, and then because you saw it, then they're expecting a reply, or they expect you to have already processed everything they sent you. Yeah, that's the scary kind of situation this guy is in lah.
Yeah. So that's why, like, I don't know whether other companies do this. I mean, we've been running our own thing for a while now, so I can't even remember when I was in the corporate world what the contract generally used to be. But it sounds like it can't be common lah these days, or is it? I don't know, man.
For companies to sue the employees?
No, to say that, okay, we have these terms in the contract, but there's this other book which we can update periodically that will also be you'll be legally bound to lah.
I mean, yeah, to my earlier point about Singapore being more pro-business and all that. For example, right, one thing that when I first moved back to Singapore and got a job and everything, one thing that shocked me was the probation period lah. Like something like probation period, it doesn't exist, at least not in the professional world that I was working in the US lah, right? There's no such thing as a probation period lah. Probation is really limited to talking about people going to jail and stuff like that lah, But in Singapore, every employee, every job you go to has a probation period, where both sides, both the company and the employee it's like a feeling out period, and they can quit with much less consequences for both sides, right? So, but ultimately, if you think about it, usually it's the company that benefits from a probation period, right? Being able to assess a candidate further for at least a period of 3 to 6 months or so.
Yeah.
More likely than not, the person looking for the job wants the job, right?
Yeah.
And usually there's more job seekers than there are jobs available. So, yeah, that was such a huge shock to me when I came back. Like, what is this probation period? How's it even legal? How's it even allowed, right? For companies to have so much discretionary power to say, hey, your performance is not up to par, sorry. Sorry, you are getting rid of you with only 1 week notice, But after a while, I just accepted, this is what it is in Singapore, and we kind of got to deal with it.
So that means but that was in the US, you said there was nothing. What about other countries, do you know?
I don't know, good question. But at least where I was working in, financial services in the US, all that. The moment you sign already, right? And it's just it's a legally binding contract, but you are, you get all the benefits from day one and all. Yeah.
Because I know another thing that I think happens a lot in Singapore is where during the interview process they make you do work and I know different countries have different policies, because we've we've been in a situation where we needed people who we were considering working with to do some work lah. And generally, like let's say a country like Australia, which is very pro-employee, there's a term, I can't fucking remember the term, where if you ask people to do work during the interview that is part of your job scope, you kind of need to compensate them lah.
I see.
But I think in Singapore, at least I've heard a few stories of people who start up companies and they just get a lot of people to do work as part of the interview, and then they use it lah in media lah. I've heard people who have interviewed before come up with a video idea and all. They don't get the job, and then the company just makes the video lah.
I see.
Yeah, so that's also another greyish area. I know we have listeners from outside of Singapore, so if you have any thoughts, or is it just the same everywhere? We live in a horrible world.
Yeah.
Or whether it's different lah.
I mean, yeah lah. It's unfortunately for this engineer, he signed his contract in Singapore. It's a Singapore company, so
yeah,
kind of just has to abide by those laws in Singapore lah. Yeah,
I think it's a reminder for everyone to just look at their contract lah. Because I personally also know a few people who are going to quit their jobs after this year's bonus.
Yes.
And I think it's a common thing, right? It probably is a common thing.
It is. I think the exodus, the post-January, February exodus is very real in Singapore lah. The post-Chinese New Year lah, mostly. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Post-Chinese New Year, why post-Chinese New Year?
I mean, there are a lot of
Post-bonus
smaller. Sorry?
Post-bonus lah, you mean?
No, because Chinese New Year also, I think a lot of more smaller SME traditional companies give out Chinese New Year bonuses lah. Or whatever it is lah, like ang pao or whatever over Chinese New Year to the employees as well. So generally, you wouldn't want to leave before that lah, right? And anyway, between January and between like New Year and Chinese New Year, a lot of people are away or very busy with like celebrations and stuff. So generally, that's not a super busy time either, lah, right? Yeah. But yeah, let us know if there's any other crazy clauses you have in your work contract that you think would be frowned upon by the rest of the world.
Yeah. Because it's always interesting to hear perspectives from outside of Singapore.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool, man.
Okay, so
okay.
One Shiok comment. It's been about a few days already. So what has been your one Shiok comment the last few days?
My one Shiok comment was just like it was a Yalabat topic suggestion, but I just want to bring it up because it's kind of tied to our first topic about the issues of wealth and inequality. It was posted by Xiao Hong Civic just today, and it was about a clip that went viral internationally where the CEO of a big company was having a Zoom call where she was talking to her employees about, like, we're in this together and all that. But by the end, she said something like, for all those people asking me about bonuses, stop thinking about bonuses. Think about the $26 million we need to make. My previous boss used to say you can visit Pity City, but you don't live in it. So people stop living in Pity City. And then she did like this mic drop gesture lah. So basically, I think it's just fucked up. It's so stupid. She's shooting herself in the foot. But I think the reason why it went viral is also because it's on everyone. Everyone's on edge lah. Whenever there's this issue of like someone, because I think her compensation was like 1.2 million last year with a bunch more in stock options. So yeah, I mean it's just another case of where that in the public will definitely be skewered lah.
Yeah.
I didn't see too many Singapore outlets cover it. But yeah, it was internationally. It went viral.
I mean, yeah, in recent months, it's been all about that, right? Because there's so many layoffs going on. There was that CEO who took a photo of himself crying after his company laid off a bunch of people. Things like that, lah. Maybe it's just the combination of like a lot of CEOs, trying to keep up the image on LinkedIn while the companies are falling apart or have fallen apart, right? So it's not just in the US, right? I think in Singapore also that happens.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this extensively with regards to the hook situation and all that as well, lah. So I mean, I think we'll just see more of it because there are more layoffs coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, there are.
Tough.
Yeah, man, tough. But yeah, I mean, thanks for posting that. But what about you?
Yeah.
What's your one Shiok comment?
Majestic Economist 6 posted the first thing I thought of was Terence. And he posted an article of most cycling groups are safe, but there are black sheep, riders say after recent accident. So, this is something that we even thought about talking about on the podcast as a topic, but I think, we've already covered the issue of cyclists on the road wearing spandex way too much already.
Yeah, that's why.
But it seems like the road cyclists, after waging war against drivers, they are now turning on each other. And they are causing each other, to get into accidents. So the whole story is about different cycling groups crashing each other and causing, there's one poor fella who got in an accident, and I think he missed, this NDO. He and his wife and a few friends are cycling, and another group of cyclists came and overtook them very suddenly and very quickly. And ended up, he ended up getting an accident, and there was no accountability on the side of the cyclist that caused the accident, and there's really nothing that the cyclist can do, I think, to really hold them accountable. And before I go on another 20-minute rant about road cyclists in Singapore, but yes, that was my one Shiok comment.
I know you wanted to talk about that topic. I was like, Terence, that one, I've heard you speak about it a lot already. Now, look, to the point when people see articles about cyclists, right? They don't think of the future of green technology, the city of 2040. They think of you, no?
Yeah.
What
I'm
the fuck, dude?
I'm the face of anti-cycling.
Yeah, that's the level we've reached. Guys, if you're listening and if you see someone cycling in spandex and the first thing you think about is Terence, it's a clear sign, okay, Terence, that you need to take a chill pill.
Yeah. I'm really very chill about it. I'm very chill.
Yeah, I can sense you're smiling, okay? As you said that line where they're turning on each other, I could sense the smile in your voice.
I can't. All I have to say is I saw this coming already,
It was
going to happen at some point or another. The cyclists at the end, they're just going to end up attacking each other and all that as well. And that's when they themselves start calling for licensing and all these things.
You're like a James Bond villain like that, yeah.
I had it all planned. Yeah,
you had it all planned, man. You're still smiling, right? You're still smiling.
Okay, not still smiling. I mean, there was an accident, poor fella. But I feel bad for the guy. But it's when you're on the road, that's what happens, right? Yes.
But in the spirit of smiles, what is your one Shiok thing for the past few days, man?
Yeah, my one Shiok thing actually is one of the one of your big idols on YouTube, Casey Neistat. I think recently he did a pretty interesting video called AI Made This Vlog. It's a 5-minute video where he basically gets GPT-4, which is the new iteration of ChatGPT, right, to write the script for a Casey Neistat video for him. And then he actually records the whole thing and reenacts it and reads out the lines and all that. So it's a pretty funny take on how AI is encroaching the creative field. But it's quite funny, lah. I think if you're interested, if you like Casey Neistat and you're interested in AI, which essentially is you, lah, Harish, right?
Yeah,
I think you watch it.
Watch it.
Find it quite funny. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
It's pretty funny.
Made me smile.
Casey Neistat, just the ability to take anything and make it watchable. Yeah.
Because it's not the first time someone has done one of those AI write a script and then we enact it and all. But somehow when he does it, it's just something really funny about it.
Yeah, it was funny. It was good. It was good. It was only like 5+ minutes, so it's a good watch.
5 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
And what is your one Shiok thing?
My one Shiok thing is this website dedicated to the Svalbard Global Seed Vault. Does that ring a bell, Terence?
No. What's that?
Okay, so the Seed Vault, right, is a facility somewhere in Norway that basically has 90,000 seeds of crops stored long term lah. Just to make sure that we have enough diversity in the event some shit happens. And sorry, it's 400,000 seed samples. And I think I heard of it a few years ago, and I thought, oh shit, it's fucking cool lah. It's an agreement between the Norwegian government, the Crop Trust, which is an international NGO whose mission is to conserve and make available the world's crop diversity for food security, and the Nordic Genetic Resource Center lah. So basically, the building is like a thin, tall building in the middle of fucking nowhere. And this website basically takes you on a tour inside. It's one of those, it's like, Google Maps. It's a static image, but you can click an arrow and you go in. You click another arrow and you go in. And it's just so wild that this exists. But it's also pretty damn cool. And the tour is kind of cool. Just to imagine, here's this thing that is just a vault for the world's seeds. 400,000 seed samples, so that we will always have some form of biodiversity.
So what brought you to this?
I think I subscribed to some newsletter saying, websites you should know.
So from websites you should know to now one Shiok Thing. Recommending it to the world.
And I mean, the newsletter is also, it really is called Websites You Should Know. The newsletter is pretty dope, man. Like every Friday, it just sends you like a bunch of like new websites that are cool. And this was one of them. I was like, oh shit, this is cool. It's cool. Oh, cool. We managed to squeeze a podcast out.
Yeah, in spite of the maybe not so earth-shattering news articles out there.
Yeah, man, not so earth-shattering, but yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah,
and
have a happy Hari Raya weekend, right?
Yes.
It's not a long weekend, but I think a lot of people are taking Monday off as well. So hopefully you enjoy and and keep us in your ears during this period as well.
Cool. All right. Take care, everybody.